I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Underrated Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss the films that we feel are underrated, underappreciated, or ones that have just slipped under the radar and passed most people by. Our podcast is made up of Alan and Fred Torres,
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
Ariel Ortiz,
Hey.
and me, Derek McDuff. Today, we're going to be talking about Zodiac, a 2007 film directed by David Fincher, based on the true crime book of the same name by Robert Graysmith. The film has an ensemble cast, a stellar cast, made up of Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Edwards, Chloe Sevigny, Dermot Mulroney, Donald Logue, and my boy, Casey Jones himself, Elias Koteas. The film received mostly positive reviews, with an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it was a complete failure at the box office, with a $65 million budget only making $33 million domestically. In fact, in its opening weekend, it came in second place, making only about a third as much as the other movie that opened that week, Wild Hogs.
Oh, that was a good movie.
The cinematic
That was a good
classic,
movie.
Wild Hogs.
That was a
I
good movie.
actually
It was the
bought the
collaboration
ticket.
of the life of the decade. I can't come up with the word.
I bought the ticket for Wild Hogs to go watch Zodiac. Just again,
There you go.
because I was 17, so I couldn't.
I bought the
or no,
ticket.
16.
Oh, yeah.
I bought the
I was
ticket
like
to Wild
16,
Hogs
17.
to watch Wild Hogs. It was good.
Oh,
Yeah.
But, what did you guys think of this movie?
Who wants to start?
All right, I'll go. I mean, it's a good movie. It's got good actors. Like that's what makes the movie good. I mean, you kind of already know what's gonna happen, kind of. I mean, if you follow the story, so it's not like a surprise way to end it or anything like that. If you kind of know what happened, the gist of it's just good acting. So it's a good movie. I mean, and obviously they didn't change. I mean, what I'm saying is like they didn't change the ending to be like we caught him or we got something different. But yeah, it's good.
I appreciate they didn't have like some crazy twist ending.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like movie feels like very real life because it is.
It feels
real
like
life.
it feels like if I was watching A&E or one of those like To Catch a Murderer kind of story things. I mean,
Yeah, but done in like
like
like an incredibly well, like really tensely made way.
Yeah, I mean, you feel for the characters. It's like I said, good acting.
Yeah, a
Just,
lot of really good actors in this. Like,
So, Fred, how were you alive around this time? Since you're the older person here.
No, what?
like the son of Sam?
Are you what? No, I was.
Isn't that the whole like era? Like it's supposed to be like during the whole son of Sam
No,
kind of
I
era.
think.
No,
it
it
runs
until the 90s.
it starts in the first part.
Yeah,
It happens in the
like the
60s.
Yeah, but I mean, like with the resurgence of,
Look, I was
shows,
born.
like,
I was
was there
born in
any-
'85.
like-
I ain't that old, so I mean,
I would have been alive in the final scene in the movie. I would have been 2 years old in that like airport scene.
yeah, I would have been alive when they go. He had a heart attack, and I would have been like, all right. No,
Yeah,
I mean, like I didn't know about him until obviously I was older, and by that point, this is all. He's gone. It's all washed. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I wasn't maybe around. My dad might have been around, but he was in Mexico, so I don't even know if he knew about it.
Mhm.
Like same thing with like Alan's dad. They were probably around about the time things were happening, but they would have been little kids, and I don't know if they would have even known.
Okay.
But
I'll go
I
after that.
I ain't that old. I mean, thanks.
Can never engage
Jeez,
with
Ariel.
Yeah, no,
him. Well, I
thanks.
can never gauge with him because he's like he's in a. We're all in different. I'm going off on a tangent, but we're all
I
in
ain't that
different.
old. I'm 30. 34. I'm 34.
Yeah, you're one of them elder millennials, right?
Yeah, I'm on the border of
Exactly.
like life and death. I mean, but
Yeah.
You almost a Gen X, but not quite.
nah, I'm there. I like to live between worlds.
All right. Well, I'll go then.
Okay.
No, for me, yeah, it was a really good movie. This is my possibly like I don't know if my second or third time watching it. I watched it actually in the theater. And yeah, for me, like it's just still a stellar cast and
What's
story,
the beef?
and and basically it's just like what you would expect from a true crime drama, but without like the you'd say like the extra stuff, or the extra dramatics, you could say, because I mean the story itself kind of like has enough dramatics for it. This story of a serial killer that spanned decades, and yeah, it also instilled once again that kind of like that I don't know, you could say if Jake Gyllenhaal is like an underrated actor or but I think because of the projects that he chooses, kind of like it kind of keeps his like really great talent that he has like under wraps. He'll pop up once in a while, like in the mainstream with like movies like this, like Zodiac or Brokeback Mountain, but then he'll also go and do a Nightcrawler or a Velvet Buzzsaw or something like that. Yeah, I think I mean his character, and I mean, being a real person and just being a normal person that kind of like got wound up in this story just makes the whole like story itself relatable, and or it allows you to immerse yourself a lot more into the story, I think.
Yeah, he's
by
definitely an
him being a
audience
gateway.
surrogate.
Yeah, but I mean that was who he really was. He
Yeah.
was a cartoonist that kind of just stumbled upon this because he was good at puzzles.
It looked like he had Asperger's or something, because he had some major issues on like not letting it go.
So there was a moment where he like is talking to the coffee guy, and then they're like, "Oh, I will. At least I don't get called. I don't get called retard." The coffee guy.
Whoa.
And then he's like, "I know,
Dropping the
sorry,
R-bomb.
R-bomb. It's part of the movie."
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it was
2007, it was a different time, and by that 2007,
No, it
I
was
mean like 1973 or whenever the fuck
Yeah,
that scene happened.
exactly.
Hey, it was the Son of Sam times. Who cares?
it was normal. That word was used a lot back in the day.
But when he says, like, they call me that. It was for a moment I was like, oh, this is like this character is like if Bubble Boy when Bubble Boy grew up.
Yo, I forgot about that.
He's just like an innocent, like Boy Scout, and like it just reminded me of like that other Jake Gyllenhaal character for a second, and I'm like, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I
he's
mean,
great.
of course, this movie was really good. I mean, the actor, we kind of got a early day MCU kind of collaboration here.
Yeah.
With Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. of the Science Bros, and then Jake Gyllenhaal. Like neither of them. Yeah, this
all three on the poster
Spider-Man.
ended up in the MCU.
I know. Yeah, Spider-Man: Far From Home is this character getting back at Robert Downey Jr.'s character because he dissed him.
Yeah, I watched I was watching Avengers 2 like right after this, and it was like throwing me off so much. It was like, what the fuck. But yeah, Alan, you wanna go give us some thoughts?
Yeah, when I saw it, I really enjoyed it. I like I'm a big I like true crime, so I enjoy stuff like that. One of my favorite parts, though, I mean, it's not really considered a horror movie per se, but like there's a
suspense.
Scene, there's suspense, but there's like a scene that I thought that always stuck with me, which I thought was like probably one of the most horrifying scenes in like cinema. That I'm sad it's not in a horror movie, but it's like, spoilers. It's around like the beginning, the Zodiac killer. There's that couple, they're just hanging out. It's like 50s, 60s. Mm-hmm. I think it's the 60s. And he just shows up. Yeah, they're like gonna go they're at make out point or whatever in broad daylight, and he just rolls up. Like he's just standing there.
Oh yeah, she's like, there's a guy over there, he has a gun.
Yeah, and it was so like haunting. Like he's just there and you're like, holy shit. Like it felt very real. It didn't feel so like cinematic or anything like that. I straight up was like, oh shit. Like
I think with it being like in the daytime and the daylight, it kind of like added a more ominous to it. And I think that's where, for me, like we'll touch base on this later on, but like where there one of the pretty good like cinematic or directional styles of that scene was like
Yeah,
very
David
impressive.
Fincher is like a master of like just cinematography and like making you pay attention to certain things. Just like the little ways that the camera will like move around certain characters. There's very few close-ups in this movie, but one of the few ones is when he's like, "Is there any bullets in that gun?" And he just kind of like shows him like the clip, and that's one of the few close-ups in the movie. And it like makes it that much more impactful. There's a lot of stuff like how the movie is shot like that makes you just like so unnerved, like that last scene when he's like going down to the basement and it's just kind of like following him. And,
Oh, I remember that scene too. That scene was really good too. And that one, I think that one had me at the edge of my seat. Like that was the more suspenseful, but like the more, like the scene that really like gave me like chills down my spine was like just him standing there in broad daylight. Like, it was just so. I guess out of like, you know, when you watch horror movies or like slasher flicks, you know, it's usually at night. They're in a cabin or they're in a building.
That's why I love Midsummer so much.
Up, like, you know what I want to say about this though? It's that because it's realistic and because it's based on real things, I think that's why it lends well to what it does and it affects people in a certain way because that's what could have happened to any of us. Because I mean, he's coming out to people. It doesn't matter if it's day, if it's night. He picks up the girl in the car. I mean, these are things that could happen to anybody at any time. And I think since they follow it, like I said, they follow it so well. Like if it was a retelling of a true crime that happened, I mean, it's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
But because they follow it so well as a retelling instead of like making it more dramatization or making it too crazy, you know, they make me feel more suspenseful. I think it's why it impacts you in such a way that when you see it, you go, well, yeah, this, you know, it's like, you know, when you'd be at night watching dude, what was that one that Geraldo Rivera used to do? America's Most Wanted.
Well,
is that what it was? Where you would see
like FBI.
There's that one.
Yeah, there would be like FBI's Most Wanted or something. One of those, yeah. And then you would see it and it'd be like, and if you find this number, call somebody. After you watch that episode, you would look at your windows and go, "Damn, is he gonna come and get me right now?"
Yeah,
because after
it was like,
and that's kind of what you get. It's that feeling that you get when after you see the murders. You kind of get that feeling of like, oh damn, is you know, and am I gonna get a phone call right now? Is somebody gonna pop out of somewhere? You know, because it feels real.
Yeah, well, I saw this really interesting interview with the guy who got stabbed at the lake and survived that, and he was telling about like how when it happened, he saw the killer like kind of out of the corner of his eye, and when he watched the movie, he said it was like exactly the same. They said that somehow like David Fincher and the cinematographer completely captured the feeling that he felt of just kind of like seeing like the killer out of the corner of his eye, like stabbed his girlfriend, and like he was like had to like turn away from the screen. He couldn't even look at it because it felt like he was just back there. And the way he just like completely makes you feel like you are in that moment and it is totally real is fucking unnerving.
That's what it was. It was unnerving. Like I was just like, okay. My only issue though with the movie was it kind of dragged at times. Like I remember when I saw it, me and my friends were kind of like, oh, okay, it's Drew Carey's brother. He's probably the killer or whatever. It's him. Whatever. Because I remember he was in the Drew Carey show. So we're like, it's Drew Carey's brother. It's Drew Carey's brother. He's the Zodiac killer. So we're like, oh yeah, cool. And then like it kind of keeps going and then it gets to the basement scene. And then we're like, oh shit, here we go. Here's the climax. Here's the big thing. And then like after that, there's a couple more scenes. And I remember just being like, all right.
Yeah, you know what?
Has to end. I was like, this needs to end at some point now because I didn't walk out. I didn't walk out feeling that like when I watch true crime. Like when I watch true crime, I'm like, oh shit the whole time. And like even when it finishes, you're like, shit. Like I can't sleep. Like with Don't Fuck with Cats, I was like that. But when I walked out of this one, I remember all of us, some of the lads were just like, I liked it. I just wanted it to end at a certain point in time where you're like, okay, I get it. It's Drew Carey's brother. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't care. Just this needs to end.
I think I feel you. You kind of wanted it to end on the scene where he was in the basement. Because I remember as I was watching it, and you see that and you feel all this emotion. Because obviously you see him obsessing so much over it. His wife has now left the house. You know, you're seeing all these things. So you're kind of like almost in suspense with him of what he's going through and how he's just trying to find it. And you feel... And I feel like at the moment when he gets there, He pulls out the poster and goes, "Look, this handwriting looks the same as this other handwriting, and this should be it." And we got him. And the guy kind of goes, "It's my handwriting," and he goes, "Follow me to the basement." You feel kind of sketched out, like, why would you follow this guy to the basement? It's him. There's something there, and then you see the footsteps, and you feel the sense of like, this is where it's gonna. Because normally movies would culminate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that though.
Here's a bad guy.
It plays on your tropes.
No,
It plays on your tropes and
but
your knowledge.
no. But what I'm saying is like where I agree with Long when you feel like this should be the point where you're gonna end the movie, but then it continues on and you kind of feel like, oh, it feels like now it's just kind of keeps going. Like when is it gonna end? Like I felt a few minutes ago it should have ended. Like we should have been at the point of like, here's your climax, because it makes you feel that way. But then it's like, no, I'm still gonna give you more movie. And then when it ends, it just kind of ends with like words like, well, we never found out who it was, and this is what happened, and that's what happened.
I really like that though.
And so it kind of plays with the I guess the typical feelings you have. Now I'm not saying that it's not good and it's not bad and everybody's gonna have their feelings, but I'm saying with Alan's opinion on the movie, I understand where he was coming from because that's what I felt when I got to that point.
Well, let me real fast. Let me just want to say I do kind of like that because and I see what you guys are saying, but it worked for me. How it's like, okay, like it should end here, but then it's like, oh, it keeps going. Like he's still investigating this because it mirrors like the real life of like, okay, like we thought we've cracked it, but like nope, there's still some more, and like he's still pushing through, and everyone's like you need to stop. Like you are getting to this point where you're going to like a basement, a creepy basement, and you still like you're maybe gonna get murdered. And you still keep going. Your wife and kids are gone, and it's like he's still going to keep going and write his book. And even at the end, like there's not like there is resolution, but it's still still technically unsolved because that's what happened in real life. And you're supposed to kind of feel like you're supposed to feel kind of unfulfilled at the end of the movie. Well, no, I think that's the point. And I
agree with you. Like with all that stuff, like at the end, obviously it's going to mirror true life, and you don't find out who it is. And so that obviously, like I said, if you know how it's gonna end, you know that at the end. It's not going to have maybe the resolution that you would feel of a normal movie of like, and we caught the killer and it's a happy day and goodbye everybody and sunshines. You know how it ends. It's kind of like watching Blow. If you kind of know where it's going to end with that guy, you kind of know what happened. How his life story. It's like following I don't know, like Pablo Escobar story or whatever, and they make a movie of him. You know where it started. You know how it's going to end. Obviously, they're going to fill you in the middle how they want to. Now,
see if but I didn't know before I saw this what happened. That much about the Zodiac killer, so
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like you'll fill you in the middle, but like you'll have the gist of like, well, the Zodiac killer went and killed a bunch of people, and they never found him. So that's what you do. That's what you know. But this movie will fill you in kind of the smaller details in the middle of, well, he killed these people, and this happened, and that happened, and this, such and such and such and such, and that's where you get these movies. That's why it's nice to watch these movies because it kind of fills you in on all the other details. But the major parts that is a man killed people during this time, and that's the stuff that you would know. Most people would know.
Yeah. I think for me, it did feel long. I did end up having to watch it this time in two parts because I had started watching it too late in the night. But I think for me, it also plays into how the people involved also felt like. They felt like this. Why is this dragging on so long? And it's just dragging on. And then I did know when I first watched Zodiac, like kind of like the gist of what happened. Like the case was never closed, but it was probably this one guy. And so for me, yeah, I mean it I feel like it wrapped in a way where it was true to real life and what really happened and how everybody felt and how it basically to this day is unresolved, even though it's kind of solved. So yeah. But I felt like the ending with Jake Gyllenhaal and him kind of having his moment of how he was saying that all he wanted was to just stare at this guy and know that it was him kind of thing. And he kind of unsatisfactorily gets that because he does go to where he was working and it's like they have this moment where why I'm here, and yeah, that was a good moment. And I think maybe it possibly could have ended there, but I mean, it's really the story need to be told, and the one guy had to make his resolution to and point him out, because that was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, like, obviously, I think I was one who originally suggested we do this movie, and I think, like, I'm a really big fan of David Fincher. Obviously, I love all of his movies. For me, this is probably I would say it's best movie. It's his masterpiece, I think. The script in this, I think, is so impressive, because this is a movie that's really thrilling and, like, really intense. But if you think back to it, there's not that much action, and there's very little, like, there's, like, some tense scenes like the one Alan was talking about, but most of the dramatic stuff comes from just people talking to each other. Like, the big climactic moment isn't this, like, like, and they even kind of throw shade at Dirty Harry, which is, a movie that was, kind of also based on the Zodiac killings, which is, like, has, like, a cop going and, committing vigilante justice. Like, the climactic moment in this movie is two guys sitting at a diner kind of, like, putting salt shakers on the table and, like, that, and it's fulfilling. It's just, like, a lot of talking, and it's not, like, very Aaron Sorkin-esque, like, oh, like, look at this amazing dialogue. It's just, you're motivated by what these people are saying. And the other thing, aside from the incredible script and how, like, it's just people talking for, like, 2.5 hours, is that this film was really revolutionary when it comes to just, like, digital filmmaking. It was one of the first movies to be shot mostly digital. There is some film stuff in it, but David Fincher is the kind of guy who's always forward-thinking. He's always using technology. He's not like a James Cameron where he's like, oh, I'm just going to, like, make this technology because it's cool. He's like, I want to use this technology because it's going to make it a better movie, or it's going to make my life easier. Like, he's a guy who, and there's all these actors, like, I listened to this interview once with Mahershala Ali talking about him shooting Benjamin Button. He's like, yeah, David Fincher will take, like, 30 takes, and you're just, like, walking a couple steps down the stairs. And for this movie, if you had shot this movie 5 years before, it would have probably not been made, or at least not been made as well as it was, because, like, all the blood in this movie, for example, it's all digital. And that's because it takes so much time to, like, practical effects obviously look great, but, like, David Fincher being such a perfectionist, he's got to have the blood splatter in exactly a perfect way. And every time you do that, you have to reset it, and it takes a lot of fucking time. David Fincher will be like, all right, let's just do boom, boom, like 15 takes right now of you just, like, looking like you're getting shot. And he can do that in a fraction of the time that it would be if they're, like, using squibs. And it's not just stuff like that. Like, the fact that, like, one of the opening shots of this movie, it's, like, going over San Francisco. That's all digital, because that's San Francisco that doesn't exist anymore. That skyline, those buildings, there's a freeway in there that fell in, like, the Great Earthquake in 1989. And there's streets that are just completely on blue screens, because those streets don't look the same anymore. They can't shoot it. He, like, painstakingly made San Francisco, like, and, like, Vallejo and everything in, like, a digital format, and you don't even really notice it. There's about twice as many digital shots in this than there are in Godzilla, digital effects. Like the Godzilla 2014, which came out, like 7 years later, yeah. And this, if you, like, look at similar movies or movies that were shot with the same camera at the same time, like Collateral, which I think is a good movie, if you look at it, it doesn't hold up. Like, those early digital movies, like, the way they look does not look good. This one looks incredible, and it's because David Fincher is always, like, at the top of his craft. He's always, trying to push the boundaries and, like, make things as new and interesting as he can and make, like, beautiful film. And I think this is really kind of one of the most important films that came out when film, like, people were starting to switch from film to digital, and it helped really change the film industry for the better in a lot of ways, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
rant over.
He did I mean, he's very Kubrick-esque, I guess. Like, he's following in the footsteps of Kubrick, especially with the takes over and over and over and over again kind of thing. I mean, obviously no one's gone Shelley Duvall crazy kind of thing, but I mean,
he's not nice to his actors, but he's not a psychopath like Kubrick was.
Yeah. No, yeah. But he needs a Peter Sellers, though, definitely. He needs to add a Peter Sellers.
Yeah, not gonna lie. Though. I mean, still 2.5 hours movie. It's a long movie.
It was originally longer. Like, the reason this movie got delayed is because David Fincher originally wanted it to be like original cut was over 3 hours, and
Oh no, God!
like
no.
the studio made him cut it down. Like there was this whole big dispute, and they were trying to get it out for award season. And Fincher kind of wanted final cut, so some things got taken out. Like there's that sequence where it's like just kind of like jumps 4 years later, and he had like a kind of transition thing similar to when the pyramid was getting built. He had a scene like that to kind of like bridge the 4 year gap. So there was a lot of stuff that was taken out like that. But yeah, it's a long movie.
Yeah, I mean,
I love long movies, but the issue is it was a type of long movie where, like I said, the climax was kind of like you were like waiting for it. For me, I wish it went the other route of like it kept giving. I don't know. That's my only thing, because I've seen movies where I go, "Oh, okay, it's gonna end. It's gonna end. Cool."
Mm-hmm.
The big battle's happening, and then it's like the hand comes up, and you're just like, "Oh shit, nope, it's not over yet." And you're like, "All right, I guess I'm staying here. I'm not moving." Like you gotta keep going, and it's like. I don't want to say like Aquaman, but like Aquaman kept going up the whole time.
Aquaman was a little much. I liked Aquaman.
Oh yeah,
but like you could have cut out like 45 minutes of that movie.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying as an example, like because that's the first movie that came into my head where I remember it just boom, 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 boom. Like I was like, oh, climax is there. Oh nope, it's going. It's not stopping.
Mm-hmm.
But Zodiac, I felt like that was its only not downfall, but my only critique of it. It's like I love the true crime aspect. I love Robert Downey Jr. stole the show for me. Yeah, I remember like we all wanted to leave and get that. What was that drink? The blue one he had.
Oh,
he drank like 50 of those.
Yeah. That was one of the best
Blue Curacao or something.
It's like Blue Velvet or what were they called?
Blue Velvet. Yeah, that was one of the best jokes. There's like a lot of this movie's pretty funny, like in like dark, subtle ways like that. It. Yeah.
But yeah, like other than that, like. That was my only like critique, but there was just a time where I was like, all right, man, it's time. Like I'm ready to go.
It was a little long. I mean, we're in Avengers territory without action,
Yeah.
That I was like, I mean, it's not like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, don't get it wrong. It's got to be what it's got to be. Every movie's gonna be its own movie. But yeah, it is somewhat of a long movie. I mean, I did get through it playing Switch while I was watching the movie, because there were a few occasions where I felt a little talky. And then some parts, when there was action or whatever, I put everything down and I'd see it. And then some of the talk was cool. But then there were times where I felt like, and this is just me personally, like I'm not trying to throw this out on anybody else. Everybody sees it differently, right? But there were a few times where I felt like, oh, maybe it just got a little too talky, or maybe it was just a little too much of this or a little too much of that.
I think you got to kind of like be in the right, like you got to kind of sit down and watch. It's like you got to set aside some time to watch this movie.
Yeah, because it's a really long movie, and like I said, this isn't my cup of tea. That's why. Like for me to get through it, like I have to. Yeah, it's a little tougher to get through it for me. I'll be real.
Yeah.
For 2.5 hours of this is what I'm saying. Like if this would have been an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
I think 2 hours would have been
2 hours,
solid.
and that could have been like a solid movie, and I would have had anything. But 2.5 hours, I mean, I paused it for a little bit, kind of walked away from it for a little. I think after like an hour, and then kind of came back to finish the next hour and a half. But I'm like, it's a long movie. It's the same thing. Like if I were to watch Avengers right now in my own home, I wouldn't watch it like Endgame, I mean, or whatever. I wouldn't watch it like all the way through, maybe in one sitting. I'd probably put down half of it and then go, when the movies are that long, when they put that much time, it's like watching Titanic with two VHSs. When the first VHS ends, like if you guys ever got to watch like that, when the first VHS end, everybody was like, cool, dude, I'm going to go back. I need an intermission right now. Everybody starts kind of going off, stretching, doing their little thing before you come back and put on the second half. And that's how I felt with this one. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's not that anything. It's just, it's a little long. So at a certain point, I'm like, damn, dude, I'm an hour in. And I looked at the time and I'm like, I got another hour and like 30 to go. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go use the restroom. I'm going to do a few things and then come back because it's long.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie you can probably watch in like you said 2 halves. Like, I kind of had to do that because I had to close last night at work and open this morning. So, that was my only real option. But I think it is a movie. Like if I had a day off, I would not mind watching like the director's cut. But like it's like I said, it's a movie you got to kind of like
put the time
prepare yourself to like watch the whole thing. You can't sit down and turn it on.
I think that was my thing when we went, because we were expecting like a thriller. Like we're like, oh, maybe like a serial killer thriller. We kind of went in because at the time we were watching every horror movie that came out, so we're like, oh, maybe this is going to be more of a thriller, and like we kind of were expecting it. and we got what we wanted, but we were just like, okay, we're getting too much. Like
Yeah.
this is
Mhm.
a little too much. Again, we're 16, 17, so I mean, obviously now I'm a little more open to it, more like, oh, okay, cool, I'll watch it. But yeah, it's definitely a day where like you have time and you're like, I got nothing to do. Fuck it, let's watch Zodiac. So if you're in that true crime mood.
Like I usually try to watch these movies like a while before we record, but I never was like, oh, I've got 3 hours right now. So like it's definitely one you need to
That is
like,
a tough
find a chunk.
That's a tough part.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. Normally, when we watch these movies, especially now that with the way we're styling recording, I like to watch them if that a day before or almost the same day earlier.
Yeah.
So that way it's really fresh by the time I come in and I can give my perspective. Because I used to, when we were doing it before differently, I used to watch them. I tried to watch them like a week ahead, and like we would do 3, so I'd watch all 3. So you kind of get jumbled in your feelings. But now that we're doing one at a time, I can watch it as close to the time we're about to record. So you really do get that like feeling of this is what I felt genuinely as I watched this movie. Like I know how I felt. I know what I feel for this one movie, and dedicate its time to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get you. I kind of like to, if it's something like I've seen before, I don't mind seeing it right away, but I like to like let my feelings stew for like a couple days, usually if I'm watching something new. Real
Yeah,
fast,
definitely.
Alan,
Go for it.
I was about to say this earlier. You kind of reminded me of it, and also Fred, talk about Robert Downey Jr. And this is just like a thing I heard about this movie, and it kind of will tell you about the kind of transitionary period that they were going through. Is when they were originally shooting it. Like since it was one of the first films that was ever shot digitally and was Robert Downey Jr.'s first digital film, usually when you're shooting on film, they have to like switch out the reels every 30 minutes, every 20 minutes, whatever it might be. Everybody kind of gets a little break, and that wasn't happening because it was all digital. They just kept recording. There was no breaks, and Robert Downey Jr. was so pissed at David Fincher for this that he was like peeing in jars and just like leaving them around the set.
Sounds like something.
Oh yeah, I
sounds
heard
good.
about that.
Man,
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this I don't know when in the Robert Downey Jr. history this movie was.
this was right before
film.
Iron Man, so it was like
Yeah,
this was like
right
right
before
before
he
it
got
was like
big.
the
So
beginning
he
of his
was-
comeback.
Yeah, so I think he was still in that kind of
So-
like attitude. And
Yeah,
stuff.
but I mean,
Yeah,
imagine
he-
having to record so many scenes over and over and over and
That's
over.
true.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm going to do something to this guy. F this guy." I
Mhm.
would. I'd do the same thing.
Like I said, Fincher is not an actor's director, you know.
I'd take a shit in front of his fucking dresser or whatever.
But yeah, you guys.
Yeah.
So this movie, like we were saying, did not do very well financially, and I think that probably had a lot to do with the way it was kind of marketed. Like, people kind of it was kind of like marketed as like a big thriller, like kind of like David Fincher had done Seven and he had done Fight Club, and I think they were kind of pushing it like, oh, here's another movie like that, and
Well-
it's very much not like that.
Well, I was
Mhm.
going to say this too. At the time when this movie came out, a lot of movies weren't 2.5 hours, were they? Because I want to say that probably scares a lot of people off. I mean, didn't they go through that with a lot of these other movies, like even the Marvel movies nowadays, where they wanted to push them like 3 hours, or even have to make them 2 parts because they're like, studios don't want you to put a movie past so much time, because then people
Yeah.
will lose attention or want to leave or be like, this is way too long. I've been sitting on my butt for too long. Like,
Well,
there's-
also
Yeah.
it's also just so that they can get more showings in a day.
Well,
Like if
that-
the movie is so many hours long, you have fewer showings.
Well,
you
true,
make a lot
true.
less money.
True.
Like that's honestly like a big thing that like why studios try to keep movies
true.
under
But
at
what
like
I'm
2
saying
hours.
is, like, when you walk out of a movie in an hour and a half, you feel comfortable. You feel nice. Like when you get up and you leave. But when you leave, when you ever leave a movie that's like 2-3 hours long after you get up, because like I said, here I can get up at an hour or an hour and a half and say, okay, I'll pause it right now. I'll go move around. When you're in the theater, you're pretty much sitting there
Yeah, you
the
can't
whole
move.
time.
Yeah.
You don't move because you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to go pee because you're like, I'm going to miss something. You just got an hour and a half gives you enough time to watch the movie comfortably. I mean, this is just me as an audience goer, because I know once you start passing 2 hours, I'm in there's movie, you shifting your butt side to side, going like, damn, how much more do I have? My back's a little hurting. I'm a little, I've been holding it in for a while.
Mhm.
But an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's a solid movie right there. You get out and you go, cool, 2.5, and people start thinking about it.
Yeah,
And this
I
is-
remember Peter Jackson saying something like similar, like that's why he's like, I mean, look, the theatrical Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
are still long as fuck, but
Oh
he's
my
like,
god!
but
yes.
he's like, oh, like if you watch the extended, he's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I've
people
had
like
those.
will sit, yeah, he's like, people will sit a lot longer in their like apartments, in their rooms,
Yeah.
whatever, than they will in the theater.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
And that's
Theater
the guy who
seats-
makes the longest fucking movies ever.
Theater seats are not comfortable, and I've seen that. I own like I think 2 of the like director's cut of Lord of the Rings, and I saw them all. They are long as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the
Oh,
longest
yeah.
thing I've ever seen in my life. And even those, I can stop. Like I said, I can stop and get up and move around. But yeah, it's always that feeling of being in a theater and sitting down. It makes you think. You know.
And I mean the context of these movies are geared towards a more older population as also, so that might have contributed it. And really, like the older you are, you don't have that much attention span either. So yeah,
It's
I
very
think that had
niche
a
movie.
Yeah.
I think that had to contribute too, and to it not have been as great of an opening as it could have.
And I mean, and also, were true crimes or things like that that nature, like the Zodiac, was it really popular at the time? Because I feel like things come in waves. Some of these serial
Well, I
killers
mean, I think
have
it's
like their
like-
popular.
'cause-
Because isn't recently like who's that one guy that they've been recently doing? Zac Efron just did one on him.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of like hot for a little bit. Everybody's talking about it.
I
And
mean,
I feel like if you read the-
nowadays with like Netflix, you have so much like true crime. Like
Yeah.
you can just go on and be like, all right,
See,
what
like
do I wanna watch
if
today?
this movie came out today, I think it would have done
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot better than it did when it came out. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right now, with the popularity of a lot of these things that have kind of been popping up.
Like how to
Well-
how to make a murderer. and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
those
things
Yeah,
like
well-
that.
well,
Exactly.
Fincher's really ahead of his time because, like, I think he kind of like saw that, like, predicted that would happen. Like, because originally his plan was going to be to make it a Black Dahlia like 5-hour like miniseries that he was going to release on something like some like network or something, and like that's like all the rage now. Like he's basically the guy who kind of invented like the Netflix model because he was the director and creator of House of Cards, which is the first ever Netflix show. And yeah, he was way ahead of his time with kind of like these ideas about like true crime and like making a series about this and stuff.
Mhm.
No, yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, he's ahead of his time, but I think it was just too early, just way too early. Because at the time, especially in the 2000s, I feel like a lot of movies were remakes. That was like really hot. Like every other movie that came out was a remake, especially of like horror movies and like classics and stuff like that. So I think the issue was it might have just been out of place, out of time, because like I said, when we went, we were expecting a thriller. We were like, cool, whatever. Right now, at the time, it was remakes, book adaptations, and like the rise of like the MCU was right around the corner. So I feel like the late 2000s were more of introducing the tens into like the big franchises, the big tent poles. So everybody was kind of gearing up more to like, oh, The Dark Knight just came out, or Batman Begins just came out, Iron Man's coming out, and then now there's Twilight and there's Harry Potter's ending. So I feel like, yeah, it was just kind of in a weird, like a lot of moviegoers look at Harry Potter or Twilight, they're not going to look at Zodiac and be like, yeah, I want to go see that.
Yeah.
I think it was just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It is a movie that I think has, like, over the years gotten a much better reputation. Like, it was received well by critics when it came out, but, like, over the years it kind of has, like, built this prestigious reputation. Like, it didn't get nominated for any Oscars, but then, they did this, like, BBC poll in 2016, and it was, like, ranked as the 12th best movie of all time by those critics. So it's, like, definitely it has, kind of accumulated a lot of goodwill over the years, I think.
Oh, definitely, because I've seen, I follow a lot of like YouTube film stuff, and a lot of them have been like, top 10, scenes where you're just at the edge of your seat, and Zodiac is there, and then it's like best like true crime, Zodiac's there, like best underrated, we're here,
Yeah.
fucking Zodiac's there. So I think, yeah, it took years for it to finally be like to get love after a while, but. So I guess, thoughts, like what do you guys think? Is it underrated, or do you think it's getting its place where it's getting what it deserves now?
I feel like
mainstream,
outside of
really.
like outside of film circles, like people like who are like film buffs like us like fucking love
Mhm.
it and talk about it, but like Ariel, like you were saying, like mainstream, it's not that popular.
Nah, I
Like,
wouldn't. I'll be real. I would have never watched this movie if you guys didn't make me watch it. I would never watched it. This would never cross my mind. I mean, maybe I saw the picture of it and I saw them and I was like, well, that's interesting. These guys are good actors. But other than that, like maybe if I really felt like watching them because of the actors, I might give it a shot. But honestly, to watch it all the way through, I'm telling you, 2.5 hours of this movie. It's long to ask people. And I probably wouldn't have. Honestly, I wouldn't have unless you guys asked me to. It's been there. It's on Netflix.
It's been on Netflix forever. I watched it originally on Netflix in like fucking 2013 or something, and then I watched it again. It's still on their 20s,
Yeah,
like I don't know if they took it off, put it back on, but
Yeah, I know. When you guys asked me and you said, "Hey, watch this," and I saw it and I go, "Oh, I've seen this before here." Yeah, I've never watched it, and like I said, and this is me just being me. Because obviously I watch a different style of movie than everybody. We all have our own style of what we like to watch. But yeah, this was never going to call to me. Maybe if it was in a shorter format, like I said, watching it on like A&E or some of those where they condense it in like half an hour or an hour, like the story, the Zodiac story, I probably would watch it. But like I said, but like you guys say, I do believe that there is a reason why movie circle people who are really into these enjoy it. It's not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It's obviously not for everybody because you got to be into this style of movie watching. But it's one of those things. It's not a bad movie. Good, really good acting. It keeps you engaged. I think over time it'll still be the same thing. You're probably gonna have, obviously with people like us talking about it, it'll probably get more people interested to watching it. Hopefully word of mouth spreads. It's always the thing. That's why you do podcasts of these. Spread the word of some of these movies, and maybe you get people going. But yeah, I think it's if it does get more notoriety in the normal public, and I mean the general audience, it would be because of things like this where people are talking about it and praising these movies. That'll allow other people to maybe come and watch it. Like I said, somebody like me who probably would have never watched it if it wasn't for you guys saying, "Hey, we should watch this movie." I probably wouldn't have watched it. Not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It might take you two sittings to watch it, but it's still, once you get through it, you're like, hey, it's good.
Yeah.
Ariel, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I would give it at least one watch through. Basically, it's definitely a very impressive like story, and if you're especially if you're a history buff, and basically, I feel like it would be a good movie for that, for a true crime. If Netflix has sparked that, hopefully with the trend of Netflix releasing all of these true crime stories, this will get a lot more popularity. And since it's on Netflix itself, it would be definitely in the recommended column for those people that it is still a niche of people that would watch this still. I don't see it becoming mainstream unless true crime itself becomes mainstream, which it's
really going there.
It's really it's making
not at the level of like it being
like
really noticeable.
Like
it definitely is underrated. Yeah, it definitely is underrated because it is a really good, beautifully directed and style wise it captures the era. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's about it, guys. Thanks to everybody out there for listening. If you guys could, if you guys want to like what you heard today and you want to tune in again, just hit subscribe on whatever app you're listening to us on, your podcasting app of choice, and we have new episodes every other Monday. And if you could give us a rating and hopefully 5 stars and a nice review, that helps us a whole lot. It helps the show get noticed. Go ahead and follow us at Undercast Co. or Undercast Company on Instagram and Facebook, and get updates of what other stuff we're working on, like Nerd Incorporated in District 6, and what episodes will be coming out of this show, Underrated. But we'll be back soon with another film, so stay tuned.
And then also, I think we're going to be trying to put this up on YouTube, right?
We'll see how it comes
We're going
out.
to try it out. So
we're gonna hopefully in the next few ones we're gonna get the kinks worked out, and we'll have at least a
Yeah,
video up with our audio, so that way on YouTube you guys can actually see us and you know
See our beautiful smiling
be a little
faces.
bit more easier to
Yeah, and
interact.
then, and also like if the first one goes up, just let us know what you think. Tell us, give us some feedback because we really want more of you guys, you know, tuning in and interacting with us because, you know, this is all, you know, we appreciate you guys listening
Yeah, we want to
and
make
all that
this into
stuff.
like a little community.
So we would like more, you know, especially if the YouTube thing is better and you guys decide that you guys like that a lot more.
Yeah.
Let us know, and hey, we'll try
Yeah.
our best.
Yeah, just reach out to us. You guys can email us undercastcompany@gmail.com. You know, tell us, you know, what you want to see from us. What if you like the video stuff? If you even have a movie to recommend, just, you know, reach out. Tell us whatever you want. But yeah, thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you in another life.
And later, everybody.
Take it
Thanks for
easy.
being amazing.
Bye.